Hi, this is Chris with American Racing Custom Shop. I'm here to measure this 69 Camaro for the proper fitment of wheels and tires. Before you get started on measuring wheels for your car, there's a few tools you're going to need to make the job much easier. One will be standard straight edge. Having a yardstick helps as well. Tape measure, some washers and bolts, and a caliper. With these basic hand tools, you'll be able to do all the measurements you need to figure out what fits your car. The first thing you need to know about fitting a set of custom wheels for your car is you need to know what width the wheel is. And a common misconception on wheel width is measuring from the outer edge to outer edge. When a wheel is advertised, it's actually advertised from bead seat to bead seat. So an 8-inch wide advertised wheel is 8-inch from this spot to this spot here. The overall actual width of that wheel is really going to be 9 inches wide. You have to add a 1/2 inch for bead seat on either side. So that's very important to take into consideration when you're fitting a set of wheels, because if you don't add that extra inch of actual width, that can throw off your measurements quite a bit and cause fitment issues. Okay, the next step to measuring your wheels is to figure out the backspacing. If you have an existing wheel, this is really an easy process to do when the tire's not on the wheel, because you need to be able to put the straight edge flat against the mounting surface of the wheel here from edge to edge. From there, you'll just take a tape measure and then measure straight down to the mounting pad to get your backspace measurement. And in this case, we're looking at about 4.5 backspace on this particular wheel here. The first process of measuring for backspace will be on the rear of this Camaro. So what we've done is we've taken a straight edge and we've actually attached it to the rotor mounting surface with some washers and lug nuts. That way it holds it in place so you can have both hands free to work your tape measure. So now with that in place, we're going to measure into the first thing we hit. That'll give us our backspace clearance. In this case, we have 7 inches of room to work with on the inside before we hit that first obstruction. Measuring to the outside, to the fender lip opening, there's a total of 15 inches. So we know we have 8 inches out and we'll have 7 inches in. So that'll give us our overall width and how much room we have to work going in and going out on this car. One key is to look for any possible obstructions or anything that might stick out, like a fender bolt or a control arm or shock. In this case, it's the inner fender. That'll be the first thing. So we're good to go with the 7 inches and 8 inches on this car. The back of the car is much easier to measure than the front because you really have just up and down travel. It's less dynamic. So besides the backspacing, the only other thing you need to really look for is caliper clearance. Usually in the rear applications, the calipers don't hang out very far, but since you're here, you should probably check that. In this case, these calipers are nice and flush, so there'll be no clearance issues there with the wheels. Okay, now to the front of the Camaro. It's pretty much the same process as the rear, but there's a few more things to take into consideration with the brakes and with the suspension travel and turning radius. So first things first, we want to measure for backspace. So once again, put the straight edge against the brake, hold it down with a few washers, grab your tape measure, and measure for overall backspace. In this case, we've got about 9 inches of room to the inside, and we have about 5 inches of room to the outer fender opening. So that'll give us how much we have to work with. So now we have to figure out the backspacing to fit that wheel in there. Now we need to measure for caliper clearance. This is really important for aftermarket disc brakes with large multi-piston calipers. So to do this, we'll take a straight edge and place that flat against the face of the caliper, and then we'll measure in to the mounting surface of the wheel. In this case, there's 1.25 inches of caliper protrusion. So we need to remember that to make sure that this caliper doesn't hit the back of the spokes of the wheel. So that's a very important measurement on disc brakes. Now we need to measure the overall diameter of this brake package. Once again, larger diameter rotor, larger caliper. We need to make sure all of this will fit underneath the new wheels that we're doing. So to do that, we need to measure from the hub center point to the top of the caliper. That'll give us the distance there. So we'll get our straight edge, place that against there, and then we'll measure to the top of the caliper. In this case, we're looking at 7 1/4 inches from the center of the hub to the top of the caliper. And then when you multiply that by 2 to get your overall diameter of the brake and wheel package. Now it's time to measure the hub on this vehicle. What we want to do is we need to measure both the hub diameter and how tall the hub is on this vehicle. Those are 2 things we need to know to make sure that the center cap will clear and we have enough hub clearance on the wheels. So let's start with the hub diameter. For that, I'm going to use a caliper to measure the diameter of the hub. So once you measure that, you'll take that information down. In this case, we're looking at 2.32 inches. Okay, now it's time to measure the hub length on these brakes. To do that, we'll take a straight edge and a tape measure and put that straight edge right against the end of the hub and then measure to the mounting surface. So measure into that. So these hubs are about 1.5 inches tall. So we'll need to know that to make sure that there's center cap clearance and enough hub clearance on the wheels. Okay, now that we have all our measurements, we measured the hub, the caliper, overall diameter, all those key measurements. We're going to take that back and get those VF502s built for this car. Okay, here we are back at the tech center. We took all our measurements back to the shop, custom built the wheels, and this is the final result. This is our American Racing VF502 cross-up in an 18x9. For this requirement, we did 5 3/4 backspace for the car. As far as the finish on this one, we did a custom satin silver center to match the silver on the front of the car. Also, we did a polished barrel to give it that nice shine. It's subtle, but it's a slight little detail that'll match that really pulls everything together. Also, that satin silver will be a lot easier to clean. Soap and water, wipe it down. You don't have to worry about polishing all these little nooks and crannies. The other thing we did is we did our custom center cap ring that has hub clearance for aftermarket hubs, but still has a nice clean appearance. So now we'll take this wheel, let's get it up on the car, see how it looks, check all the clearances, make sure everything we measured as far as the hub, the brakes, the backspace, make sure that's all on spot, and we'll be all set. Okay, so here we are. Before we put this wheel on, we want to just recap what we went over here with the measurements. We had to measure the hub length as well as the hub diameter, the amount the caliper protrudes past the mounting surface, as well as the overall diameter of the rotor caliper package. We also looked at the distance to the fender opening, inner fender, frame rails, lower control arms. All of that we looked at and took measurements of to make sure we got the right fit for these wheels. Well, here we are. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. The wheel is now on the car. We have plenty of clearance with the caliper. The hub fits nicely here in the center with the cap ring. Everything's nice, everything clears on the inside. We can give the wheel a turn and it clears the fenders. And it also clears on the inside edge here. So yeah, this looks like a success. Okay, so for more information on our new cross-up as well as all of our other styles, check out our website. It's www.americanracing.com. Also, check us out on social media at American Racing on Instagram and American Racing on Facebook for all of the latest styles, finishes, everything new that we're working on. You'll see it there first.